My 27th birthday was supposed to be small. Quiet. Forgettable. Just a cake, a fake smile, and a picture for people who never cared anyway. But that night, my family didn't give me a celebration. They gave me a lesson. A cruel one. My mother slid a white envelope across the table, smiling like she had planned something special. "Go on, sweetheart," she said softly. "Your yearly salary." The room went silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The kind that waits, just before laughter explodes. I picked up the envelope. My fingers didn't shake. Not yet. When I opened it, a single dollar bill slipped into my hand. Just one. Folded inside it, a note. I unfolded it slowly. For the worthless loser who will never become anything. For a second, everything inside me stopped. My chest tightened. My throat locked. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. Because people like them don't deserve to see your tears. My mother leaned back in her chair like she had just performed on stage. My sister laughed so hard she nearly choked. My father tapped the table and said, "Well, that's your first real paycheck." Someone at the end of the table muttered, "Even beggars earn more than that." The cake sat in the middle, frosting melting under the warm light. The smell of sugar felt sickening. And still, I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, but because something inside me had finally gone quiet. Later that night, I walked toward the back hallway. I wasn't trying to listen. But I heard them anyway. "Lock the door after she goes out," my father whispered. "Let her stay outside tonight." My sister laughed. "Yeah, maybe the cold will teach her something." I stood there in the dark, staring at the wall. And for the first time, I understood everything. This wasn't anger. This wasn't a joke. This was planned. Every word. Every laugh. Every moment. They wanted me to break. They wanted a reaction. Something they could mock, or maybe even record. But I didn't give them that. Instead, I folded the note carefully. Exactly how it was before. And I put it in my pocket. Not as an insult. As evidence. I didn't wait for them to lock me out. I took my keys. My bag. And I walked out, before they could start their little game. That night, I didn't go back. I drove straight to the only place that ever felt normal. Owen opened the door without asking questions. He looked at my face, then stepped aside. "Come in," he said quietly. "I'll make coffee." He didn't ask what happened. He already knew. I sat on his couch, wrapped in a blanket. The room was warm, but my hands were still cold. After a few minutes, I handed him the dollar bill and the note. He read it once. His jaw tightened. "You keeping this?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Good," he replied. "One day, they'll pretend this never happened." He was right. The next morning, I didn't go back home. I went to work. Because no matter how broken your family is, real life doesn't stop. Machines don't care about your pain. Work doesn't care about your past. It only cares if you can fix the problem. And that was the one thing I was actually good at. But what my family didn't know, what they never bothered to understand, was that I wasn't failing. I was building something. Quietly. Carefully. And far away from them. They thought I was nothing. A joke. A burden. But they had no idea how wrong they really were. My family thought I was a failure. That I worked random jobs. That I had no direction. No future. They never asked questions. They just made assumptions, and turned them into jokes. But the truth was very different. I worked as a refrigeration technician. Not glamorous. Not clean. Not something you post online for attention. But it paid well. Very well. Late nights. Emergency calls. Freezing conditions. Broken systems that needed fixing before sunrise. Restaurants. Warehouses. Supermarkets. When everything stopped working, I was the one they called. My hands were always rough. My clothes never looked perfect. And that was enough for my family to decide. I was a loser. What they didn't know was simple. While they were busy laughing at me, I was saving money. Every extra shift. Every bonus. Every overtime hour. I didn't spend much. I didn't show off. I just built, quietly. 18 months before my birthday. I bought a duplex. Small. Nothing fancy. But it was mine. I lived in one unit. And rented the other. A retired teacher lived next door. Mrs. Alvarez. She watered her plants every morning. And sometimes left lemon bars outside my door after long shifts. Peaceful. Simple. Safe. My family knew nothing about it. And I wanted it that way. Because in that house, information was never love. It was a weapon. A week after my birthday, things started exactly how Owen predicted. They acted like nothing happened. My sister commented on one of my posts. "Look who's pretending to have a career now." She deleted it later. But I had already saved it. My mother posted quotes about ungrateful daughters. My father left a voicemail calling it just a joke. I saved that too. Because I had stopped treating their behavior like random moments. This was a pattern. And patterns leave proof. Then one day, everything changed. My aunt called me by mistake. She thought she was calling my mother. In less than 3 minutes, I learned the truth they had been hiding for years. They were broke. Not struggling, collapsing. Rent unpaid. Bills stacking up. Utilities almost shut off. My father had taken money from the wrong people. The kind who smile until it's time to collect. My mother had sold my grandmother's ring. And lied about it. My sister had maxed out her credit cards, chasing some fake online image. And still, not one of them called me to apologize. Not one asked if I was okay. Their first real message came only when they needed something. That's when I understood the truth. They didn't hate me because I was weak. They hated me because I was becoming stable. Something they could never fake. A few weeks later, my mother finally called. Her voice was soft. Sweet. Too sweet. "Claire, honey, let's have dinner. Start fresh. Start fresh." Like nothing ever happened. Like cruelty has an off switch. I said no. She started crying instantly. "We were joking, you're overreacting." I stayed quiet for a moment, then said. The note had folds. Silence. Because that wasn't a joke. That was planned. She changed her tone quickly. "Family shouldn't keep score." That sentence felt like poison. Because people who hurt you the most always want you to forget the details. I ended the call. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. One evening, Owen sent me a picture. My father, arguing in a parking lot. With a man I recognized immediately. Trouble. The kind that doesn't go away easily. A message followed. "You need to be careful." Then another message came from my aunt. "They're saying you owe them money now." I stared at the screen. Not shocked. Not angry. Just clear. That's when something inside me changed. This wasn't about emotions anymore. This was strategy. I didn't want loud revenge. I wanted consequences. Real ones. The kind that stay. So I started preparing. I collected everything. Screenshots. Messages. Voicemails. Dates. Patterns. Proof. Even that $1 note. I printed it. Put it in a folder. Then I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Not because I wanted to fight immediately, but because I refused to be caught off guard again. The lawyer listened carefully. Then said something I would never forget. Compassion is not the same as surrender. That line stayed with me. Because deep down, I knew something was coming. Something bigger. And this time, I would be ready. The storm hit harder than anyone expected. Freezing rain. Icy roads. Power lines shaking under the weight of the cold. By evening, the whole city felt like it was holding its breath. I had just reached home after a long shift. My boots were wet. My hands still cold. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Mrs. Alvarez had already left to stay with her daughter. So it was just me and the low hum of the heater. Warm. Safe. I changed into dry clothes and heated some soup. For the first time that day, I could breathe. Then my phone lit up. Missed calls. 1, 2, 5, 12. All from numbers I knew. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. Because a second later, the pounding started. Loud. Heavy. Desperate. Not knocking, but hitting the door like something was breaking. I froze. Spoon still in my hand. Then I heard it. Claire. Please. My mother's voice. Shaking. Panicked. I walked slowly to the window. And pulled the curtain just enough to see. And there they were. Standing outside my house. Soaked. Shivering. My mother's hair stuck to her face. My father coughing into the cold air. My sister wrapped in a blanket that was already wet. For a moment, I didn't move. Not because I didn't care, but because I had imagined this moment before. Just not like this. Open the door, my father shouted. We're freezing. My sister started crying. Real crying this time. Claire, please, we're sorry. I walked to the door. Unlocked the inner latch. But kept the main lock closed. Just enough to speak. What happened? I asked calmly. The heat stopped, everything broke, we had to leave. My mother said between sobs. Please, just for tonight. I looked at my father. Why are you here? He avoided my eyes. Because we need help. I shook my head slightly. No. Why are you here? Silence. Then finally, he said it. Because you're the only one with a warm place. There it was. Not love. Not regret. Just need. I reached into my pocket. And pulled out the folded note. The same one. I held it up. Do you remember this? My mother closed her eyes. Claire, not now. No, I said quietly. Exactly now. My voice didn't shake. You laughed. All of you. And then you planned to leave me outside in the cold. The wind hit harder. For a second, no one spoke. Then my father said it. We were wrong. Simple words. Heavy. But too late. I took a slow breath. Then made my decision. I opened the door. Just enough to place something outside. A white envelope. My sister picked it up with shaking hands. Inside. A single dollar bill. And a note. One cold night teaches gratitude. My mother broke down. My father stared at me in disbelief. "You're not coming in," I said. His anger snapped instantly. "Are you serious?" I looked straight at him. For the first time, yes. They stood there, feeling exactly what they once planned for me. But this wasn't revenge. Not really. Because I wasn't done. Before they could say anything else, I placed a plastic box outside. Blankets. Gloves. Hand warmers, I said. And the address of a warming shelter 2 blocks away. They looked confused. "I already called them," I continued. "They're open. They'll take you in." My father looked offended. "A shelter? For your own family?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the truth finally had no mask left. "You wanted me to sleep outside for entertainment," I said. "I'm sending you somewhere safe." Silence. Heavy. Cold. My mother whispered, "Please, don't do this." I shook my head. "No. Not like before." Then I said the one thing I had carried for years. "You don't get emergency access to my life. Just because yours is falling apart." No one argued. Because deep down, they knew. They took the box. Slowly. Quietly. And walked away. Not strong. Not proud. Just broken. I locked the door. And leaned against it. My hands shaking. Not from fear. But from the weight of finally choosing myself. That night, I didn't win. I didn't feel powerful. I just felt free. Because the real victory isn't watching people suffer. It's refusing to become like them. I didn't let them in. But I didn't leave them to die either. I gave them a choice. Something they never gave me. And sometimes, that's the strongest thing you can do. So tell me honestly. If you were standing there, with your hand on that door, would you open it? Or would you finally choose yourself?